exactly what U.S. is doing right now. They're like, okay, Ukraine might be a bad idea. We'll let the Europeans pay for it, handle it. We're gonna pivot to Venezuela, right? We're gonna focus on somebody who is much smaller than our size because Russia and China is too much to take on right now.
Oh, but they're still in that war. They're still in that
Oh,
war. I mean, and
no,
make it
no.
even worse. Oh, good.
So I think what they're doing is they decided, okay, maybe instead of confronting Russia and China head on, we are going to nibble at their periphery. We're going to stop the Chinese and Russian influence from Latin America, from Africa. And this is why they're targeting Venezuela and Nigeria right now. Now they're saying there's a Christian genocide in Nigeria that necessitates U.S. to serve and protect. I mean, this is completely bogus. The whole like Boko Haram thing in Nigeria, how did that come about? It came about because of the United States, because U.S. supported a bunch of jihadists to overthrow Gaddafi. And when that happened, all these terrorists got their hands on Libyan weapons and they flood into the Sahel region, destabilizing Mali, Nigeria. That necessitated more U.S. and French military intervention in those places. And now it's their excuse for doing another intervention in Nigeria. And when Nigeria's government already said, no, thank you. We welcome your help to deal with terrorists, but it's on our terms. We don't want to be your...
Yeah, I mean, like, the rub is, like, I always say people lie to start wars. That's not a Christian genocide in Nigeria. Like, Christians are dying, but so are Muslims. And as you point out, here's another question. Where are Boko Haram and some of these other groups continuing to get weapons? Where they're continuing to get bullets? How are they paying for the stuff?
Yeah.
How are they paying for it? It's not magic, right? So you think that basically we don't want to deal with Russia and China directly. Venezuela has a relationship with China, Russia, and Iran. China has become South America's largest trading partner. So we need to invade South America in some way in order to effectively put a stop to it and regain control of that region by having a military intervention that would allow us, let's say, continued military conflict in South America.
Venezuela is basically BRICS adjacent, right? I mean, it's not in the BRICS, but it's BRICS adjacent. But U.S. sees Venezuela as like the weakest link that it can push over. And Trump liked to go for easy victories, right? They think it will be easy to do a regime change in Venezuela, like how they always think. And also, U.S. want to have a monopoly over Venezuelan oil. Venezuela has the world's largest oil reserve, and China is now largest purchaser of Venezuelan oil. And China is also trying to help Venezuela to update their oil industry so they can refine their own crude oil instead of just exporting it and import refined petrochemical products. But United States depends on Venezuelan oil because a lot of the refinery in the southern United States, they are set up to refine heavy crude, the same type of crude that's produced in Venezuela. Whereas the shale oil they get from fracking is light sweet oil. Those are not suited for the refinery in the southern United States. So U.S. export those raw crude it gets from fracking and imports Venezuelan oil for the U.S. refinery to process. So even now, ExxonMobil get a waiver from Trump to continue to import Venezuelan oil. So what they don't want is they don't want the Venezuelan oil to go to China. That's what's going on.
I see. And the same thing I would imagine with Nigeria, where it's like, all right, we need to get further ensconced in Africa.
Yes.
Oh man.
Yes. China is also investing heavily in Nigerian infrastructure. This is why U.S. is trying to curtail Chinese and Russian influence in Africa and Latin America, because that's the places U.S. think they can have advantage through proxy war, color revolution, and regime change.
What does China like? I'm always shocked that China never responds to that stuff. I mean,
China still adheres to its non-interventionist foreign policy, and China is also very realistic about its own power projection capability, right? So right now, China's military is designed to maintain a superiority around its neighborhood, right? This has been demonstrated by the recent Chinese military parade. But China still lacks a power projection to, send the Chinese Navy to Latin America or to Africa, right? The Chinese Navy is not designed for that. It's designed to protect its own neighborhood, and that's not the role of the world police. Is not the role that China seek to replace. The U.S. keep on thinking China is going to replace U.S. as a world hegemon, and China has no interest in that. But having said that, China do work different. How China and Russia, the way they work is Russia usually provide the hard power.
Yes.
The muscle. China provide the economic lifeline. This is how usually the Russia will come in to provide with weapons, military assistance, and sometimes military intervention, like in the case of Syrian war. China will provide economic assistance and investment and economic lifeline. This is how, because that's the strength of China. China is leveraging its own strength, and it does not count. It works with Russia in tandem in that way. They don't kind of butt heads. So that makes sense.
Will China be forced to create a power projection as a way of, because I used to have these conversations where I would ask, how does a country that plays chess deal with a country that plays Go, or vice versa? How does a country that plays Go deals with a country that plays chess? And what I mean by that is, chess is
I don't think Trump played chess, by the way. I don't think Trump should play chess. He maybe checkers.
Right. But let's say, just as you point out, the U.S. president is hobbled by a lot of people around the president that has a very specific objective, meaning Trump may not know policy papers, right? I don't believe for a moment that Trump has read a policy paper in his life. People around him have. And if you look at this notion of overextending Russia, if you look at Pathway to Persia, these are things that Donald Trump was enacting in the way that he was operating, meaning that was the U.S. was still enacting those policies. Now, he may not have did it to the letter of the document per se, but they were definitely going in that direction, right? So when we're looking at this, even the notion of going after Venezuela and Nigeria, that's chess, right? It's like, okay, we can't go after them directly because we'll lose the game because everybody dies. So let's go around and hit at certain edges. Okay, so Venezuela may be a weak point. Nigeria may be a weak point, especially if nobody's going to intervene into those regions and we don't expect anyone to intervene. So those are areas that we can put pressure upon. Those are areas that we can either usurp the oil, for example, or that we can, if necessary, invade in order to occupy those regions and make it that much more difficult for China to operate in South America. That's chess, right? That's not playing Go where you're trying to bring people within your fold willingly. That is, we're taking something in order to prevent somebody else from getting their hands on it. Does China have to ultimately do that?
Well, okay. So China believes, if you look at Art of War, Sun Tzu basically tells you play to your own advantage. You play to your own strength.
Yes.
U.S. think its strength is military power. That's why it throws its weight around. China can do things differently. China has dominance over the rare earth supply chain. China can just choke off the rare earths to the U.S. military industrial complex. I mean, like I said, China has only rolled back the latest rare earths expanded export control in October. The earlier export control on rare earth is still very much on, and U.S. military industrial complex is still going to have a problem to source those critical minerals from China. How are they going to justify it to the Chinese Commerce Department when they apply for the export license? Well, we need more rare earth supplies so we can supply our expeditionary force to Venezuela and Nigeria. Can I have some more export rare earths for the next 6 months?
Will China do that though? Would they really say, like, for example, if the U.S. attacks Venezuela? Now, even Europe has come out and say, this is outrageous that you're murdering people in the Caribbean. Even Europe, for God's sake, is like, Yeah, man, we can't even justify this. You are murdering fishermen. Let's be very clear what's taking place. The president is doing something grotesquely illegal and is effectively giving illegal orders. Will China say, look, if you do that, you're not getting anything from us in the context of our efforts? China has been very reluctant to get into a trade war.
So right now, the Trump policy is like the reverse rose of Teddy Roosevelt, right? Teddy Roosevelt said, speak softly, but carry a giant stick. United States right now is talking very loudly and waving an increasingly diminishing stick. And whereas China does not loudly issue threat, right? The way United States does. It conducts quiet diplomacy. Yes. Like the rare earth restriction on U.S. military industrial complex still on today. China doesn't have to say anything about it. They don't have to make a big announcement. So like, we got you by the balls. But but they just know. They just know they have that power. and U.S. also beginning to understand finally after 7 months. So that's how China plays. China doesn't beat its chest like, I got the power, fear me, right? You hear Mike Tyson. You don't need to constantly try to project strength. People know you are strong. Right? People back off. That's how China plays the game.
There's a story about Mike Tyson where he was this guy he was talking about. He was at a bar or he was trying to get into a nightclub, and apparently the bouncer was getting very aggressive with him. I don't know what was taking place between these guys. Mike Tyson shows up and is like, hey man, this guy bothering you? In which case the bouncer is like, you want to go into the club? Hey, go into the club. Like it's Mike Tyson, right? Like everybody knows. Iron Mike. So just kind of let the guy through. No, I understand your point. It's effectively like, you guys can do this, but there will be consequences for you doing this. We don't have to state it, but they will be there. Carl, you are fantastic. Thank you for this, man. You be safe, okay?
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Yeah, Carl is great. Carl is awesome.